I remember it like it was yesterday. Gloria, my mother, leaned across the dining table, her face flushed, eyes glinting with irritation. Martin, my father, just sat there with that smug half-smile, the one that always made my stomach twist. And my brother Daniel, oh Daniel, smirked behind her, like he'd been waiting for this moment all his life. You and your son are just freeloaders, my mother spat, her voice slicing through the room like a knife. Living off what we've done for you, thinking you're better than everyone else. The irony. They were still living in my house. I hadn't said a word. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just looked at them, calm, measured, and said the words that froze the room in place. You have 24 hours to leave. And that was it. To understand why I reached that breaking point, I have to take you back, way back, to the beginning of my story. I grew up in Eugene, Oregon, in a modest 2-story home at the edge of the city, the kind where the grass was always overgrown and the floorboards creaked under your weight. My parents, Gloria and Martin, were the kind of people who wore charm like a mask, polite to neighbors and strangers, ruthless at home. My older brother Daniel was their golden child. Everything he wanted, they gave without question. Me. I was the quiet one, always expected to follow along, to keep the peace. When I was 17, my great-aunt Margaret passed away. She was the only relative who had seen potential in me, who told me I could do anything. In her will, she left me $80,000. Money for my future, for college, for the chance to finally take control of my life. I had dreams of going to the Art Institute of Portland, of becoming a designer who could make something that mattered. But my parents had other plans. One hot summer evening, I sat in our cramped living room when my mother's voice cut through the air like glass. Lisa, your father and I need the money, she said. I blinked, confused. For what? I asked, clutching the envelope containing my acceptance letter. Daniel had started a business venture, she explained. Something vague about importing furniture from Europe. It's a sure thing, she promised. We'll pay you back once it takes off. This is for the family. My heart sank. My college fund, my chance at independence, gone, not stolen, but taken with the expectation I'd comply without question. My father shrugged. You can take out loans. We're doing this for the family, he added. Daniel wasn't even in the room. He never needed to be. He just smiled in the corner like he owned the world, while I was left holding my dreams in pieces. The business. It failed. Miserably. And my parents never mentioned paying me back. Not a word. That night, I packed a duffel bag, grabbed my laptop, and walked out. No goodbye. No one tried to stop me. I was 18 and determined to build a life that was truly mine. The first few years were hell. I moved into a tiny apartment near the city center, sharing space with 2 roommates I barely knew. I took on every job I could find, waiting tables at a diner, delivering for a local grocery store, tutoring kids in design and art. Some nights, I fell asleep at my desk with a pencil still in hand, books scattered around me, stomach growling, exhausted to the bone. I reminded myself every morning why I was doing this. I wasn't just surviving, I was proving to myself that I didn't need my parents' approval, their money, or their permission to live. By 21, I had a small clientele, designing logos and websites for local businesses. By 24, I had my own studio, a modest but growing company I named Carter Creative. I paid off student loans, rented my first apartment alone, and for the first time, I felt free. Then came Ethan. He was born 3 years later, and with him, a love I hadn't known existed. I met his father, a fellow designer named Mark, at a conference. He was charming, smart, dependable, or so I thought. For a while, it felt like I had it all. A home, a thriving business, and a family. But life had other plans. I discovered Mark's infidelity when Ethan was 5. Text messages, late-night calls, evidence I couldn't ignore. I didn't beg him to stay. I packed his things, left them at the door and said simply, "Get out." He did quietly, leaving me to raise Ethan on my own. That experience, like my parents' betrayal, strengthened me. It taught me that I could survive anything and thrive. Years passed. My parents continued to hover in the background, sending occasional texts. At first, they were subtle. "How's work going, Lisa?" But it quickly turned into requests for money. Daniel needed startup funds. Gloria's new car broke down. Martin's medical bills. I started saying no, politely at first, then firmly. Their reactions. Sharp. Guilt trips. "We sacrificed for you," they said. "You don't appreciate what we've done." Sacrifice. My parents' idea of sacrifice was taking my inheritance, ignoring my hardships, and expecting gratitude. I had friends who became my chosen family, like Jenna Ross, my childhood friend and now business partner. She kept me grounded, reminding me, "They're using you. You owe them nothing." Her words were truth. Still, I avoided confrontation. I didn't want to give them power over me. That is, until the call came. It was a Thursday evening. Ethan was at the kitchen table, sketching a spaceship for a school project. My phone rang. The name flashing. Gloria. I almost ignored it, but something compelled me to answer. "Lisa, it's your father," she said, voice trembling. He's not well. We need help. His business, the house, everything." The pitch was familiar. Family, desperation, guilt. But this time, I felt my resolve solidify. I wasn't a child anymore. I wasn't vulnerable. I had a son depending on me, and I owed him a mother who didn't bend to manipulation. "I'll think about it," I said, keeping my voice calm, and hung up. 2 days later, I flew to Portland. I'd arranged for Ethan to stay with a trusted neighbor. My heart was heavy, but I told myself this wasn't about saving them. It was about closing a chapter one had left unresolved. The house looked smaller than I remembered, paint peeling, lawn unkempt. Gloria greeted me with her usual practiced smile, Martin lingering behind her with that same unreadable expression. Daniel lounged on the couch, arms crossed, eyes full of smug entitlement. Dinner that evening was a powder keg. The first few minutes, small talk. Then it came, sharp and sudden. "You're making good money, Lisa," Gloria said, voice smooth as venom. "You could easily help us. It's the least you could do for your family." My fork paused mid-air. My father leaned forward. "We've done so much for you. You owe us." I met their gazes steadily. "You want me to do what?" Daniel laughed. "Don't play dumb. Step up, or watch us lose everything." And then, the words that changed everything. "You and your son are just freeloaders," Gloria screamed. "You think you're better than us, living off what we've sacrificed." I looked at Ethan's face in the doorway, unaware of the verbal assault. My chest tightened. My calm snapped into steel. I pushed back my chair, voice low and unwavering. "You have 24 hours to leave." The room went silent. Gloria's face turned red, Martin's jaw tightened, and Daniel. He didn't know what to say. My words carried weight because they were final. They weren't a threat. They were truth. And that night, I called Jenna. "They crossed the line," I said. "Ethan, me, they don't get to touch us. Not anymore." Her voice was firm, unwavering. "Then let's make sure they can't. We're not just standing up. We're taking control." And so began the reckoning. I won't lie. The next few days were tense. Calls, messages, subtle threats. My parents tried to guilt me into compliance. Daniel attempted to manipulate and charm. But I held firm. I consulted lawyers. I documented everything. I created a plan that would ensure I reclaimed control of my life and protected Ethan. By the end of the week, it became clear, nothing would stop me. I had the upper hand, legally and morally. I was done being the victim. And that, ultimately, was my first step toward freedom. The moment I spoke the words, "You have 24 hours to leave," I felt something shift inside me. The weight of years, years of manipulation, of being dismissed, of their constant demands, lifted slightly, replaced by a fierce clarity. I wasn't acting out of spite. I was acting to protect my son and myself. That night, I called my lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Marianne Cole. I explained the situation. My parents living in my house, verbally attacking me and my son, attempting to leverage me into paying their debts. Marianne's voice was precise and calm. "We can start eviction proceedings immediately," she said. "Given the circumstances, we have a very strong case. And any harassment or defamation will strengthen your position." I felt a surge of relief. Finally, a plan. Finally, control. The next morning, I woke early, brewing a strong cup of coffee while Ethan was still asleep. I knew I had to act strategically. This wasn't just about getting my parents out. It was about reclaiming my dignity and ensuring nothing like this could ever happen again. I gathered all evidence. Texts, emails, recorded calls, and the dinner exchange. Every instance of manipulation, entitlement, and verbal abuse documented meticulously. Marianne drafted the eviction notice with surgical precision. It gave them 30 days to vacate. If they failed, law enforcement would step in. It also explicitly prohibited any harassment, verbal or digital. I signed, and within hours, the papers were delivered. Gloria called immediately, her voice rising. "You think you can just throw us out? This is your family. How can you do this?" I stayed calm. "I'm protecting myself and Ethan. That's all," I said. Martin's voicemail followed, terse and icy. "You'll regret this." Daniel, of course, texted first with sarcasm. "Wow, Mom and Dad finally stood up to you? Or is this just another stunt?" I ignored him. I knew he thrived on my reaction. Giving him one would be feeding the fire. The following days were tense. Gloria attempted to guilt-trip me publicly, posting on social media about her struggling family and the ungrateful daughter who had abandoned them. Friends, acquaintances, even some strangers reached out, expressing outrage at my cruelty. But I didn't flinch. I had Marianne draft a cease and desist letter, addressing defamation, including the online posts. Gloria complied, her posts removed, but her fury was palpable. Daniel sulked. Martin seethed. They realized, finally, that my boundaries weren't negotiable. Then came the real leverage. The house. Marianne explained the opportunity clearly. The bank was in the process of foreclosing due to my parents' defaulted loans. I could buy it outright, taking ownership and eliminating any future financial manipulation. I had the resources, my savings, investments, and business profits. I called Jenna immediately. "This is it," I said. "We can end this for good. I can own the house and control the situation." Jenna's voice was sharp but approving. "Then do it. It's time they face consequences for their choices, not just words." Within the week, I completed the purchase. I was the official owner of the house where I had grown up, the very place they had exploited, manipulated, and disrespected me in every way possible. The next step was strategic. Marianne drafted a lease for them. They could stay as tenants if they repaid the $300,000 debt over 5 years, with interest, and adhered to strict behavioral guidelines. Any violation meant immediate eviction. When the notice reached them, Gloria called, voice shrill with disbelief. "You can't do this. This is our home." I was calm, resolute. "Technically, it's mine. You can stay on my terms. Or leave." Martin's voice dripped with venom. "You're just like them," he spat. "You think you're better than us?" I stared at the phone, voice steady. "I've already proved I can survive without your help. I don't need validation from people who have spent my whole life taking from me. You chose your path. I'm choosing mine." Daniel remained silent, perhaps realizing for the first time that his privilege wouldn't save him. Eviction proceedings moved swiftly. My parents tried legal maneuvers, claiming hardship, family loyalty, and even attempting to challenge the ownership. But Mary Ann had covered every angle. Every text, every demand, every moment of abuse was documented. The court saw clearly who had manipulated and who had protected. 30 days later, they were gone. The house was left in chaos. Boxes haphazardly packed, furniture shoved against walls, trash scattered like evidence of their carelessness. I walked through, feeling a mix of nostalgia and resolve. This place, once a battlefield of my childhood, was now a testament to my strength. Once the house was cleared, I arranged for a deep cleaning, repairs, and put it up for rent. The rental income would cover my loan, with any extra funneled into Ethan's college fund. I didn't want to dwell on the past. I wanted to build a future. Ethan came home from his friend's house that weekend. He ran into my arms, grinning. "Did everything go okay, Mom?" I hugged him tightly. "We're okay, kiddo. I've got this under control." And I did. Over the next few weeks, life began to settle into a rhythm I hadn't had in years. My parents moved into a small apartment on the outskirts of the city. Gloria took a job at a local boutique, Martin worked as a delivery driver, and Daniel continued chasing one failed business idea after another. For the first time, they had to face the consequences of their choices. I didn't feel satisfaction in revenge. The satisfaction was in reclaiming my life, my son's safety, and my dignity. I returned fully to my business. Carter Creative expanded faster than ever, landing contracts with major clients, designing campaigns for brands nationwide. I mentored young designers, showing them that success wasn't just about talent. It was about resilience, strategy, and protecting your boundaries. Ethan thrived as well. He never missed a beat in school, excelled in soccer, and found joy in drawing spaceships, dinosaurs, and imaginary cities. He didn't have to worry about family drama anymore. He didn't have to carry the weight that I had for years. Sometimes, I think about my parents and Daniel. I don't hate them. I stopped caring about their approval long ago. Their actions and words shaped me, yes, but they also made me who I am. Strong, independent, and unyielding. I drive by my old neighborhood sometimes. The house I owned, then rented, still stands, now filled with strangers and laughter that isn't mine. That's fine. It's just a house. My home is with Ethan, with my friends, with the life I've created from scratch. Family isn't defined by blood, or by who calls you on a Thursday expecting money. Family is the people who lift you up, who respect your boundaries, and who fight for you as much as you fight for them. I found that family in Ethan, in Jenna, and in the life I've built. Looking back, I realized the lesson was never about revenge. It was about boundaries, respect, and self-preservation. My parents and brother may never understand, may never apologize, but I don't need them to. I have my son, my studio, my home, and my dignity intact. That's everything. And finally, I sleep easy at night. Moral lessons. This story is a reminder that family ties don't excuse disrespect or manipulation, and that setting firm boundaries is essential for protecting yourself and your loved ones. True strength comes from facing adversity head-on, and standing up for yourself isn't cruelty, it's justice. Life teaches that accountability matters. Those who exploit others will eventually face consequences. Most importantly, self-respect and the people you choose as your family matter more than blood alone. And investing in supportive, trustworthy relationships is the path to a life of dignity, peace, and empowerment.